The following interview is made possible by AON Meetings.
One of the careers we will feature today is news anchor. Today's guest is someone that works in the industry, Mr. Terrance Friday. Welcome, Terrance, to your career day.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, yes, thanks for being here, Terrance. Really appreciate you sacrificing the time. So before we begin, can you tell us a little about what was like growing up for you and how did that shape your desire to become an award-winning newscaster?
What got me started in wanting to be in this industry is actually an assignment that I got in the fourth grade. I'm actually a pretty shy and reserved person by nature. And in fourth grade, my teacher, Mrs. Miller, would have us do a current events assignment. So what we would have to do is go get the who, what, when, where, why of anything that happened in the country or world, and we'd have to present to the class what we found. And my teacher told me that I was really good at it, and she said that she could see that I was shining when I was able to do those things. So she told me that I was going to be a journalist. And from there, I stuck to it. So I would watch the Power Rangers every night and the nightly news, and that kept going. And then I would read the newspaper out loud to my parents, and I just kept practicing and working at my craft. And by the grace of God, here I am today, finally working in the field that I set out to do so long ago.
Can you explain your job and its responsibilities?
What my job is here at CBS Detroit is a multi-skilled anchor. That's the name for my title. What that means is I present the newscast in our shows. We have different shows, both over the air and streaming. So what an anchor does is present on camera what the producer, who is the writer of the newscast, writes and puts together. And we also have reporters who are out in the field who are also bringing you those stories and interviewing people and putting that all together to present something for the newscast.
What type of person would be suited to pursue this type of career?
I would say you just have to have a passion for it, because this is something that requires a lot out of you. For example, like I said today, I had to anchor a show at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 and 6. So if this is something that you don't like, I don't recommend it, because you just never know how the day will go. But also on top of that, there's a lot of work that you have to do in order to be successful at it. But it is fun. But if you have the passion and desire, you'll enjoy it and it won't feel like work. I also think you need to be able to have strong skills as far as reading and writing, public speaking as well, because that really is part of the job, and just to be able to communicate with people. But there are people who don't necessarily have the skill set, but they can learn it. So it just depends.
The question I have is, every job has its sacrifices, whether it's time spent with family or friends, freedom to engage in activities. What sacrifices have you made in pursuit of your career?
Oh, quite a few, to be honest. One thing I will say, as far as my industry goes, you start off without a lot of experience. So in order to get that experience, that means you'll probably have to go to a smaller station in a small town that you probably never heard of. But those smaller stations will give you a chance without the experience. And most of our jobs, as far as the on-air positions, are on contracts. And that can go anywhere from 2 years to 4 years, 5 years maybe. So there's a sacrifice in the sense that when you take a job, it's 2 years of your life here, maybe 3 years somewhere else, so on and so forth. And you keep working your way up in what we call markets, which is based on the size of the city where you work. And for a lot of people, the goal is to get to a top market or eventually to work for a national network.
Well, what type of education would you need to be qualified to fulfill a job as a broadcast journalist?
A 4-year degree from a college or university. And it helps to have a background in broadcast journalism, just so you understand the industry. And also the work starts really in college, because by the time you graduate, that's not the time to start trying to learn how to report and how to write. You have to already know how, so that when you pitch yourself to those television stations, even for that first job, they can see that this is someone who knows what they're doing, who's dedicated, who we can bring on. Because this isn't the kind of job where you get trained necessarily. You will learn how a station works and, of course, the nuances for that particular place, but you need to know how the industry works.
What should a person do beside academic education to be a better candidate for this type of career?
I would say just work on yourself. So for this industry, there's a lot of work that goes into how you present as a newscaster, as a writer. So with that, that means your speaking voice, being able to speak with clarity so that people can understand you, and also writing so that people can understand a story in a way where it's easier for them to digest, but where you're also making sure that you hit all of the important points and getting the information across. So definitely reading, writing, speaking, and just a general knowledge of current events. So it all just ties in together.
Does this job provide opportunities that other jobs don't? And if so, what are those opportunities?
It absolutely does. One thing is that you never really know what the day will be. Any given day, anything could happen. And when you're reporting, you never know who you'll meet, or you'll get to do some amazing things that you probably otherwise wouldn't do. That could be meeting presidents or celebrities. I've been on a hurricane flight before where we actually flew into a hurricane as it was happening, which is something that I obviously never would do otherwise. And it's also just nice to be able to meet people in the community and share their stories and just have a general knowledge of what's going on where you are.
What are some of the possible situations or difficulties somebody pursuing this career might encounter?
Well, there's quite a few. One of them being that you are in the public. And as we all know, the public is not always nice. So you have to develop a bit of a tough skin and be able to have confidence in yourself, because you can get out there just wanting to tell people what happened, and someone wants to tell you, I don't like that tie. I don't like how you look. I don't like how you talk. And they will come to your doorstep on social media and leave these messages to you. So you have to be able to be strong enough to not let those things stick, but also confident in the work that you do to be able to brush that off. Also, there are times where, depending on the situation, you can be at the scene of a very bad, deadly shooting where you're having to watch those things play out in real time, where a family's finding out, and you have to be able to compose yourself, go on camera, and present the information. It can be intense, but it can also be very rewarding. But there are definitely some challenges that come with it. But again, it circles back to the fact that if you have passion about this and this is something you really want to do, you're able to continue on.
What is the one greatest thing that you enjoy about your profession?
I think just being able to connect with people in a positive way. I know there was a story that I did some years ago. Someone wrote in about a colleague of theirs who was a veteran. He walked to and from work 30 miles every day, as he didn't have a car, but he was taking care of his mom. And she asked that we just do a story about him and the fact that he was so dedicated to his family. And through doing that story, someone saw it and bought him a truck. And that
Nice.
was one of the most rewarding things for me, as far as a career goes. It was great knowing that because of us putting that out there, he was blessed in that way. So it can be very rewarding, just as far as meeting people, connecting people, seeing change. Um, there's a lot of things. And also, too, just the fact that there are a lot of people who have dreams and goals and they don't always see it through, or they give up on themselves. So for most of us, this is a dream that we have had for a while. So to be able to work in it, that in itself is a blessing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate talking to you and meeting you and interviewing you. Thank you so much.